Welcome to Bloomers in the Garden. I'm Len Schroeder. The frost-free date should not be ignored. We had 29 degrees on Tuesday night. In our first segment, we're going to discuss the frost-free date. Segment number 2, how is it possible that there are blue mountain pinks? We're going to discuss mountain pinks, also known as creeping phlox, in our second segment. I warned you about planting too early in our first segment, but our third segment, we're going to tempt you with a segment all about tomatoes. Don't worry, tomato time is coming, but not yet. We received a call from a listener about growing strawberries. Hear all about it in our fourth segment. And it's Palm Sunday weekend, and we'll wrap up today's show talking about Easter flowers and their care. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in the garden right after this.
Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden. Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is, Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So, the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best-looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or see and hear us by subscribing to Bloomers YouTube channel. Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley every Saturday. First, wake up with us at 6 a.m. on WNWR The Word at 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. Tune in at 8 a.m. to Bloomers in the Garden Radio on Talk 860 WWDB. A rebroadcast of Bloomers in the Garden Radio is played each Saturday evening at 5 p.m. on The Word, 95.3 FM and 1540 AM. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard throughout the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. So the frost-free date is May 15th for the majority of our listening area. I think everywhere we're heard. You can't mess around with the frost-free date. There are tricks, but this year it's not going to be that much of a difference. So let's try to break this down. So the classification of freeze temperatures are based on their effect on plants, obviously. Like a light freeze is 29 to 32, which we had this week, and tender plants would get killed. If you tried to beat the clock and try to put in, like vinca or impatiens or peppers or eggplant, they're dead. Moderate freeze is a little more severe, very destructive, and that it can even be destructive to certain plants that you would think would be fine. Like if there's new growth on any plants, like if you know like a magnolia, like a saucer magnolia, the ones that are usually pink or purple and they bloom real early, that kind of temperature will turn those flowers into banana peels, and rotted banana peels at that, because they all fall off and they make a mess, and it's pretty bad. So we were close to that this week. And severe freeze is 24 degrees or colder, heavy damage to a lot of plants. So that's something. Now, ancient times, let's go back. Like we have come from an agrarian society. You may not think it now, but at one time you would track the seasons by the lunar calendar. So the moon. I mean, you would know, like, there are different types of moons that would usher in each season. So there's a pink moon, and the native people, Native Americans, they observed the seasons and gave them each different names. And the time was recorded by using the months. And as a result, many of the traditional names that you'll see, like in things like the Old Farmer's Almanac, come from Native Americans who interacted with the American colonies. So April 12th's full moon is called the pink moon. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see that we have some mountain pinks that are in the studio, in which we're going to talk about mountain pinks specifically in just a bit. But they're called moss pinks or wild ground phlox. But in this part of the country, they're called mountain pinks. And they're basically a phlox subulata that it is a creeping phlox. And that's where it gets, when the pinks are in bloom, is where that pink moon comes from. Now, what does that mean? It means there still is likely a chance of a frost, but it's getting close, that you can plant some of the hardier vegetables, things like cabbage and kale and lettuce and all of those early vegetables, Brussels sprouts, and they can all be planted now. Even like we have some strawberries here in the studio. You could plant strawberries. If it gets to be that severe cold, they need to be covered. So just keep that in mind. Now, this was the key. This is the key one, and this is what we rely on. The last full moon before May 15th. If that is, say, May 10th, the frost-free date, we at Bloomers are pretty confident that last frost occurs during that last full moon before May 15th. So this year, though, it's May 12th. So there's likelihood that May 12th may have a chance of frost. So you've got to be careful. And again, it's important just to watch that. And why the moon? Because there's radiant cooling that happens when there's a full moon. If it's cloudy, it's not as big a deal. But generally, it's clear skies, and that clear skies where all of that radiant cooling happens, and it gets cold at night. Okay, now that May 12th moon is called the flower moon, and obviously for reasons that there are things that you can plant after that flower moon, because again, it's likely the last frost before May 15th. So again, right now you can plant some types of flowers without too much fear of them getting damaged. Petunias you can plant snapdragons, there's dianthus, there's Dusty Miller, there's stock, even portulaca and lobelia are pretty are going to be pretty secure even when it's as cold as it is. Now, tender annuals, you got to be disciplined and not plant these plants until after that flower moon on May 12th. We're talking about impatiens, begonias, ageratum. Gosh, ageratum. But if it gets a frost on it, it looks dead. The leaves get all brown and black. Oh, it's awful. Salvia, coleus. Coleus absolutely hates that, because if you ever look at coleus stems real close, it looks like they're filled with water. And it's one of those things that doesn't like it. Sweet potato vine goes like the ageratum. It just disappears. Geraniums, you shouldn't plant them because it will stunt them if they go through a cold snap. So again, wait until after that flower moon on May 12th. Vegetables, soft vegetables, what we call them, tender vegetables, if you will, basil, eggplant, peppers, tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, beans, all those, you got to wait. You have to wait until, again, they call it that flower moon. That happens on May 12th. And again, check the forecast. I mean, when it was so cold this week, I was checking the forecast like at 3 a.m. And again, it's, the coldest before the dawn, and it sure was. And that was 29 degrees, and that was right about at 6. It was cold. It was really cold. But what about like you've got tulips coming up or daffodils or hyacinths? Those are fine. Those are fine, especially if they're planted. Anything that's planted and established, Mother Nature knows what it's doing. You just leave it alone. Don't, especially with bulbs. If you've planted your bulbs in the fall and they're coming up now, don't try to cover them. You'll probably do more damage to the flower buds because either they are in bloom or they're shortly going to be in bloom. And if you try to drag a frost blanket over top or something like that, you're going to hurt them more than anything else. Now, if you have something soft that you just planted, that's another story that you may need to do that. People are asking us for things like, do you have southern magnolias yet? And the answer is no. Southern magnolias, believe it or not, come from the south. Duh. I mean, they originally were not hardy in this area, and between good breeding and good science, there are varieties that are hardy here. Like we can grow camellias. We didn't used to be able to grow camellias. We can grow crepe myrtles. We didn't used to grow crepe myrtles. But the issue is those generally come from either a southern or a western climate. And at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, we don't bring those things in until our weather kind of matches up. And the earliest that would come in would be like the 15th of April. But if you've noticed, it's been cold. It has been cold. We had a nice snap where it was in the 70s. We're going to get some nice weather this week coming up. But it's going back to where it's in the 20s and 30s at night. We need to watch the skies. Last year at this time, it was in the 70s. It was in the 70s. And that the actual historical average temperature right now is 10 degrees warmer than it's been. So we're in the 50s during the day, right? We're supposed to be in the lower to mid 60s. So...
And to your point, I was reading in the Farmer's Almanac, and I thank you for putting me onto that, man. Right?
Down on the horn.
A few years ago, to your point, they did say that our winter was going to be unusually cold, and early spring was going to be very cold.
There you go.
And I think average now we're about 10 to 15 degrees below.
Yep.
On an average for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Outside of that 75-degree snap that we had. So yeah, to your point, man. Be careful. May 12th. I always say May 12th, man. You're safe. It's baseball season, man.
I mean, as a kid, we always learned it was May 15th. May 15th is a frost-free date, but we always, didn't tell anybody, but we went by that flower moon.
Gotcha.
And whenever that flower moon hit, that's when that radiant last real cold snap had potential. So,
in my household, it was, I think it was Mother's Day weekend was the weekend that we started doing our planting.
But Mother's Day can be.
It could be.
It fluctuates.
Right.
It fluctuates all over the place.
You're right.
So, but be careful on some of the shrubs that you may be buying new, because if there's some of the southern style shrubs that are brought in, like there's two methods of thought. As a nurseryman, I want to bring them in from the southern climates or the West Coast, and we're talking about Northern California, and that when they're dormant, so that they open as the weather calls them into opening. But for instance, we get our southern magnolias and our crepe myrtles and such from Georgia, and I just visited. That's from Monrovia Nursery, and I just visited their facility in Georgia, and it was great. But they had 8 inches of snow. They don't get snow because they're not far from Tallahassee. That they don't get snow, but they had 8 inches of snow, and why was that a problem? Because it tore down all of their shade cloth that they had because they grow also tropical plants like bougainvillea and hibiscus, and they're actually had rubber trees, or so they're starting to grow some house plants in that area. But it ripped it all down, and that they were replacing it all. So the weather, you got to watch the weather. You got to watch the weather. They never have snow like that, but.
When they do get it, it shuts everything down.
Oh, it does. They don't know what to do.
I didn't tell you, my wife and my daughter, Ava, had an audition in Atlanta a couple months ago, and they got caught down there for 2 days in snow, couldn't come back because of an inch and a half of snow.
That's crazy.
Shut everything down. They were stuck in a hotel, had to get another day. And so, yeah, it's crazy how they're not equipped, but,
no salt, no shovels.
But the plants that come, when they come into our area, it's like I always tell people when they come in, it's like you want to have them, you want your plants to mimic the environment that they were born in or raised in, and ultimately, as a businessman, it makes great sense that you would do that, bringing them in and wanting them to come in and not sit there and potentially die as a result, or come in and just be damaged. We don't want to sell damaged products.
Yeah, it's tricks of the trade. After doing it now for almost 40 years, it's something.
I'm
starting to get it figured out.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't know. We'll see.
Absolutely. Not exactly a pro yet, but no. Plant pro, my man.
With the covering, if you're going to cover, we always have said, and I think last week or the week before we talked a little bit about this. If you're going to cover plants, use cloth, use paper. Don't use plastic. Plastic will transfer everywhere it touches the plant. If it's the ambient temperature is 29 degrees, where it's touching the plant will be 29 degrees. You want to create that insulation barrier. When you're using cloth or paper, it has a natural insulation to the fabric, and that it won't transfer that freezing temperature. So a fan of cloth, paper, but not of plastic. So again, it's almost time to plant those soft vegetables and flowers, but you gotta just hold on until that May 12th moon is passed. That you can do. There's plenty to do out there. There's lots of perennials that you can plant, and there's lots of other different vegetables that you can plant. So there's plenty to do, but don't try to play chicken with the tender annuals and vegetables, because you will lose. All right, we're going to be back in the garden right after this. We're going to talk about mountain pinks. We'll be back right after these messages. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Wanting to up your game in the vegetable garden? With 90 years of organic gardening experience, the Espoma Company has you covered. Espoma Organic Garden Tone is not your average garden variety fertilizer. Garden Tone is especially blended for organic vegetable gardens. Its all-natural formula contains Biotone, a blend of organic ingredients that supplies essential nutrients for strong, healthy plants and mouth-watering vegetables. Its slow-release formula provides continuous feeding. The Biotone contained in Garden Tone is a combination of organic ingredients and beneficial beneficial microbes to help roots grow deeper and faster for bigger, more bountiful harvests. Garden Tone is simple to use and safe for people, pets, and the planet. No harmful chemicals or synthetic fertilizers are ever added. You can find Garden Tone at fine garden centers. Visit espoma.com to find a retailer near you. Garden Tone from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
If you're like me, then you absolutely love birds. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center has you covered. They're dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds of all sorts. Want to bring more birds to your yard? Then you got to see this place. Bloomers has a huge flock of feeders, birdhouses, birdseed, and much, much more. Want to feed the birds and not the squirrels? They have this absolutely cool bronze bird feeder that will drive those sneaky squirrels nuts. They'll be moving to the next door neighbor in no time. OMG. Bloomers have these absolutely adorable birdhouses that will turn your yard into the perfect bird B&B. They carry all types of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. Bloomer stocks, Lyric, Coles, CNS, Pine Tree Farms, and much, much more that will keep those beautiful birds coming back for more. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County. For more information and directions, check them out on the web at bloomers.com. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, you got to see this place.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Mountain pinks are a stunning ground cover that create a carpet of colors, depending on which ones you choose, because they're not just pink. Mountain pinks come in blue, white, cranberry, red, and of course pink. But why are they called mountain pinks? Mountain pinks is a regional name. And when we talk about, like a lot of times on the show, we'll talk about common names and that sometimes they're regional, like hosta, for instance. Hosta is hosta. Hosta is the botanical name, but people call it hosta. But there are areas of the country where they're called plantain lily, where it's called funkia.
That's kind of funky.
Funkia. And it's just different, they're different areas. And again, Creeping Phlox, where is in probably the majority of the area. But I'll tell you what, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York, it's mountain pinks. The mountain pinks in. And that their real name is Phlox subulata. Okay, and it's a creeping phlox. And they're sometimes called thrift. Flowering moss. Other parts of the country call it that. Moss pinks, definitely. Rock phlox. I kind of like that one. Give me some rock phlox.
It sounds like a band.
Right.
Let me stop. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I play bass for rock phlox.
Right? We all loaded in the Fred Flintstone mobile.
But if you're wondering, there's another type of phlox, which is the taller one. That is Phlox paniculata, and it's the upright garden phlox, and it's the one that gets powdery mildew. But they're working on it, and they're working on it by different types of breeding and such. Those of you that are loyalists for natives, go ahead and have your powdery mildew issues. But that's the whole point of having newer varieties, and and that would be like if you have like a phlox that is a varietal name, like that's where the nativar comes in. So it's a plant that's like native, but it's not. It's a hybrid, so that it doesn't have the issues and flowers more. It has greater color, so on and so forth. So it's a nativar. So don't get hung up on just finding the native variety, because honestly, that's where the plant started, and the new varieties that came from it are the things that make it look beautiful. So it's like going backwards with natives. But that's just me. all of you native people, love you. But open up your mind and think nativar. Okay? All right. Anyway, back to mountain pinks or Phlox subulata. Like Aaron touched on, is that you think of where a plant grows naturally. So native, right? So it's a native environment. Dry, rocky, sandy in the plains, rocky ledges and slopes, clearings, open woodlands, and that it forms a ground cover. It's a great ground cover. I've seen some areas where the phlox is almost a whole lawn. Now, it does compete with weeds, like crabgrass can choke it out, and different types of weeds can choke it out. So you've got to make sure that you're watching the weeds and you're taking care of them, but it takes a while to get it established. When there's like I know that up in North Jersey, then there's a whole slope, like a hard slope where you can't cut the grass with a lawnmower because that slope is so steep that they have planted the phlox, or again, mountain pinks, and that it just covers the whole area. And it is stunning to look at in spring, but it's not a repeat bloomer. So it's not something where you're going to, get all summer color. And that's okay. Because, again, it's got good foliage and it's just like a good green. So it looks like a ground cover after it's done blooming. So it doesn't get ugly or change in any way. It's kind of like a cushion. Like it does. And that's why they call it moss pinks, because it resembles moss in a way because of the texture. Not because of the green or it gets into places you don't want it. It's just that it has that soft look. Now, the stems are green when they're young, and they become tan and woody with age. So they actually become somewhat of a woody plant, but they are considered a perennial. And that with older plantings, you may need to thin them out from the center of the plant so that it gets to grow the young growth, the new growth, so that it's starting from that woody stem and it's growing new growth, so it gets those flowers that you're looking for. Again, lots of different colors too. Lots of different colors. I actually like cranberry, just myself. It's a like really, really deep pink and real almost magenta-ish. And it's just because it's so different from others. And you're going to plant them starting now. They start coming in between middle of April. You get about a month before they're up. Because honestly, for me, as a retailer and someone who provides plants, once the flowers are off, nobody's interested. And that's why we always say, it's like, look, plant your perennial garden over the course of a year, not all at one time. Because if you planted right now, you'd get plants that look good now, but they're not going to, where are the plants that are supposed to be flowering in August? Well, they flower in August, and that's when they're available. So just like you won't find mountain pinks in August. So you get them when they peak. So if you go back to your garden center every week or every other week to pick up your perennials to put into your garden, that's going to be your best plan and the best garden that you're going to get. Now let's see, what else about shearing the plants back a little bit after flowering can sometimes encourage a second growth and a smaller flower. So you may get another shot at it. But again, you need to be careful. You don't want to go too deep. We're going to talk about strawberries in a little bit, and we're going to talk about the crown of a plant. You don't want to cut it so that it's the crown that you cut into that crown, because that will kill the plant. So you just want to do a light, maybe an inch at the most, maybe half an inch would be better. You're just taking off those flower buds and you're just kind of shearing them. So it's a good way to get another short bloom cycle, but it also will help the plant to become thicker and fuller. Let's see. Oh, what about sun? What about sun? It prefers sun, and it does require like a well-drained soil. So in clay, it's not going to do well. So you want to try to amend your soil before planting if you have clay. If you have sand, you still want to add some organic matter because that will give it some nutrient value, and that you don't want to give it an acid-based fertilizer. Like you want to do plant tone from Espoma. You don't want to do Hollytone. So the brown bag from Espoma Plant Tone, that's what you want to use as far as a fertilizer because, again, it prefers a neutral to slightly alkaline pH. And it's going to get to be about 6 inches. And the best uses for it, and it, Aaron, we're both from North Jersey, so we hear about rock gardens. Here in South Jersey and I guess in Pennsylvania too, they have it. But in South Jersey, it's pretty flat, and there's not a lot of rock gardens. Let's just say some of the older neighborhoods may have some rock gardens in them, but rock gardens, a woodland garden, in any like naturalized area. I like when you build a wall and you put it along the edge of a like stone wall and it drapes over the top. And when they go into flower, and even when they're not in flower, it's stunning to look at. It gives a new dimension. And like we talk about on the radio show all the time, it's color, texture, form, and it does all three. So if you've got questions about mountain pinks, please call that hotline at 609-685-1880. Leave your question, and we'll call you back with an answer. We'll be right back right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. We are proud to announce that Bloomers in the Garden has partnered with Renewal by Andersen of Greater Philadelphia, Delaware, South Jersey, and Southern Maryland. Renewal by Andersen is the top window and door company in the United States, specializing in replacement windows and doors. You might be thinking right now, what the heck do windows have to do with gardening? Well, Renewal by Andersen makes this beautiful garden bay window that's energy efficient and made from recycled materials. It's perfect for growing the finest indoor plants possible. When you are looking out your windows filled with plants in your beautiful garden, you don't want to see old windows that are cloudy, warped, or even rotting. That's why people in the horticulture community love Renewal by Andersen. Not only do we want our gardens to be beautiful, but their homes as well. Renewal by Andersen participates in horticultural events such as flower shows, earth days, and eco fairs. To get more information and set up a free home consultation, please visit www.philadelphiawindow.com and be sure to tell them Bloomers in the Garden sent you.
Is she gone?
Nope, she's still standing there.
What is she doing?
I think she's watching the grass grow.
That's our job.
I know, right? She's watching the grass grow, the flowers grow. Ooh, look, the trees are growing.
Can't say as I blame her. Remember where she bought all this stuff?
Duh, bought us there too.
Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Find us online at bloomers.com.
Hey, welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, let's just demystify tomatoes. It's too early. You heard me, right? The first segment, too early for tomatoes to go out. But let's talk tomatoes. Everybody loves tomatoes. We sell more tomatoes than any other vegetable. Oh, but it's not a vegetable. It's a fruit. Tomato, I'm not getting into that argument. So, classification. I want beefsteak. Beefsteak are a variety, or used to be, and they're just a big tomato. They're a slicing tomato, big slicing tomato, and it no longer means the variety, although there is a beefsteak variety, that it means that type. So you can get big, like celebrity, beef master, There's a lot of different types that will do that for you. A medium slicer, so that's obviously just like it says, it's a medium-sized tomato. Jetstar, I consider a medium-sized. Supersonic, those are medium-sized. Plum tomatoes, self-explanatory. I have been going from, instead of Romas, doing the San Marzano. I just think they have a better flavor. Cherry tomatoes, those are round cherry tomatoes that everybody knows what they are. There's a few different varieties. There's also a few colors where there's red and there's purple and there's yellow. And then there's grape tomatoes. Grape tomatoes, they have become so popular over the last few years, and just because they have that sweet flavor, and a lot of times you'll see sugar associated with their name, like Sugary is a variety. And then there's the little mini marble-sized tomatoes, and those like Sweet 100 is the most popular. They're like little ones that you can throw up in the air and catch in your mouth. That, you want to know a secret?
What's that?
About me?
Talk to me.
I hate tomatoes. I don't eat tomatoes. I can grow them like no other, but I just don't like tomatoes. But I'll eat sun-dried tomatoes. I'll eat tomato sauce. I'll use ketchup.
Is it the texture? Or
it
like,
is.
Probably.
It's a texture thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Like I don't like onions, but I'll eat onion rings.
Well, that's not its natural state, though. Like if you fried the onion, it's no longer the same texture.
Right.
Right. The tomatoes, I don't fry tomatoes, so I wouldn't dare try frying tomatoes, no matter how country some of my family are from down south.
I think it comes from having to pick tomatoes in the field.
Yeah.
And you're
traumatized.
Fingers would be green, and you'd have that smell of tomato plant on you.
That's PTSD, man. You need therapy for that, man.
Yeah, I think so. Especially because we used to have to physically pick the egg casings of the potato beetle, Colorado potato beetle, and put it in a little coffee can of kerosene.
Those things do nasty damage for sure.
They do.
For sure.
They do.
And we talk about that on our podcast. So if you haven't already done so, please make sure you like and subscribe. Hit us up on YouTube at Bloomer's Home Garden. Check us out on your local podcast provider anytime.
That's right. You get to hear me talk about plants. It's a good thing. So what are some terms that you hear about? It's a determinate variety of tomato. It's an indeterminate variety of tomato. What the heck does all that mean?
Wow.
Let's break it down. So determinate, just like how it sounds, the plant has a determined size that it gets to and stops. You're going to have probably less yield, but it won't sprawl all over your garden like an indeterminate variety has. So a type of, let's just say, like if you see patio or anything with bush in the name of it, like Big Boy Bush, Bush Champion, Early Girl Bush, Tumbling Tom, those are all determinate varieties. So they're only get to be so tall. So if you have a small garden, it's a great choice. The other varieties, like the ones that are probably more available, like any of the Cherokee series and any of the Jetstar, Supersonic, Beefsteak, Beefmaster, any of those varieties, they are indeterminate, and they can get big. They get 12 feet tall. Normally, it's just about 6, and they will continue to send out tomatoes on the tops for about until the first frost. So they can keep on going. Determinate size stop, and they're best in containers or if you have a limited amount of space. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see that we have a patio tomato that is represented here. It's a nice size. It's almost 2 feet. And that already has flowers, and that it's going to produce tomatoes right away. So you're probably about a month ahead with getting a bigger tomato plant. But again, it's a determined size. So it's not going to get much bigger than you see right here. Maybe another 6 inches, maybe a little more, but it all depends on what bush variety you have. So indeterminate will grow and get tall and keep growing and keep producing tomatoes without. So think of it like we talk about ever blooming, like they will be ever producing, the indeterminate type. The determinate type will get to a point where it gets so big and then stops. So when you go to your local garden center and you're picking out plants, check those tags, read to see if it's a determinate variety or indeterminate variety, and then you'll know you'll have tomatoes all season or you'll have tomatoes that are on a bushier plant for only a short time. Now, there are a lot of different vegetables that are doing the same thing. Like, for instance, you're going to see bush cucumbers and bush eggplant and things like that. So keep an eye, because if you have a short amount of space or you have a container garden, that you're going to want something smaller. You don't necessarily want something gigantic, because you're going to have to figure out a way to trellis. So get out there. Your tomato plants will be coming in soon. Don't get them too early, okay? You're going to be better if you get them just before you're going to plant them, rather than jumping in early and getting stuff that all starts turning yellow because you can't provide it enough light or the care that your local garden center can do. That's it about tomatoes this week. We certainly will come back to that as we get closer to the flower moon. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best-looking plants in the neighborhood.
If you're looking for a specific potting soil for your house plants, rather than just a generic professional potting soil that sometimes, let's just say, it can be a little soggy, the Cape Netic Blend Organic and Natural Indoor Houseplant Mix from Coast of Maine is what you're looking for. It's specially formulated for indoor houseplants and flowers using a coarse coconut core, that's important, perlite, and aged bark to optimize drainage and aeration for robust root development. The coconut core is what true gardeners and professionals are looking to replace some of the peat moss that are in most potting soil blends. It adds a little more air around the root system without having it dry out. The peat sometimes gets a little wet. Do you have any fungus gnats flying around? That happens too. So if you've got the coconut core in your mix, it's something that's going to be better certainly for indoor houseplants. So whether you're growing peace lilies, spider plants, philodendrons, monsteras, or other popular or exotic houseplants, this unique compost-free blend provides the optimum structure and benefits for nurturing strong, beautiful indoor plants. And again, that's the Cape Netic Blend Indoor Houseplant Mix by Coast of Maine. Look for it at your local garden center. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, we got a call from a listener who asked about strawberries. And you know what? Here, listen to her call.
Hi, Len. This is Sharon Ivnicki. You answered one of my questions about potato growing in a container, and it didn't work. And but I'm looking for information on strawberries. Should I plant them now? But yeah, when should I plant? I bought some at the big box place, and I was wondering if I should plant them now. Okay, bye.
Everything was great until that last comment. You got them at that big box place. Now, the question is, did you get bare root strawberries or are they strawberry plants? Like in studio here, if you take a look on our YouTube channel, we have ever blooming strawberry. We have June bearing strawberries. So they are the way to buy strawberries. If you're getting the bare root strawberries, they need to be planted right away. That they are, the weather itself, we're pretty good on. But if we have a 29-degree night, you're going to want to cover them. And again, you're going to cover them with cloth just to be on the safe side. That they will grow. Sometimes if they're in that bare root state, they may dry out and you may lose some. So don't be worried. It's not that big a deal. But I'll tell you what, garden strawberries are always better than the ones you buy in the grocery store. Immediately when a strawberry is picked, the sugars in the berry, they convert to starch, so they start losing that flavor. They're also perennial. That's the one beautiful thing about strawberries is that they will come back year after year and produce, and you can even put them in pots and hanging baskets. Now, there are 4 types of strawberries. There's June bearing, okay, and there's ever bearing, also called perpetual bearing. Sometimes their fruit is a little smaller, okay. There are, let's say, day neutral strawberries. They're close to the ever bearers, and then there's alpine strawberries. Like alpine strawberries that. We get some strawberries in hanging baskets, and those, I think, are alpine strawberries. Sometimes you'll see wild strawberries growing in that. That's an alpine strawberry. They're always smaller. The fruit is smaller, but they continue to produce. And that some people say the berries are better. I love a great big strawberry that's got great flavor. And that June bearers are probably the best. And maybe you want to have a section of June bearing and a section of ever bearing. And that way you can always be harvesting. When you plant your strawberries, I find it hard to recommend that you pull the berries off for the first year. What fun is that? You have to wait then till next year to harvest. But strawberries need to be in 6 to 10 hours of sunlight. They're tolerant of different soils, but they like good soil. So a loamy soil. So that means that you want it to drain well. So you're going to add bumper crop or compost to the soil, mix it together to create that good soil. You don't want to plant them deep. You want to have that crown of the plant to be slightly above the soil. That's one mistake that people make is they plant them too deep and they begin to rot because the crown is dying. They will send runners out. So they don't just grow like one plant. They will grow in tunnel and send runners out, and they become a stronger and bigger mass. It's a great thing. It's a great and fun plant, especially if you've got kids or grandkids. Nothing's better than going out into the garden and picking some strawberries. So pH, they like a little bit of an acidic pH between 5.5 and 7. So again, you want to try to amend that soil. If most of the area is probably right around that. Get a soil pH test from your local garden center or your agricultural agent, and that they will, the agricultural agent, honestly, will give you so much information you'll be confused and you think that your soil needs to be completely removed and changed. Go to your local garden center and see if they do pH testing, and that they'll do that for you. If you have really bad soil, you can grow them in like half barrels. That's easy. Or raised beds. Now, planting them now is perfect timing. Most of the varieties that you'll find at your local garden center as plants are going to be disease resistant and the best varieties available. Sometimes when you buy them from the large box store,
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah, that sometimes, they're just a widget. Let's make money. Well, oh, look, there's a bundle of strawberries, 25 in a bundle, and who knows what variety they are. Again, you need to keep them well watered while they're establishing their roots, especially during like dry weather, even during the summertime. It's incredibly important because its roots are relatively shallow. And again, they keep wanting to send tillers out and back up, and then tillers out and back up, kind of like how bluegrass does in your lawn. And they need a lot of water to keep those running and producing flowers, especially all of the ever-blooming varieties. They don't just stop. Weeds are an issue. Weeds will choke them out, so make sure you're hand weeding and keeping them free of weeds. They'll eventually form a mound so it'll choke out most weeds, but unless they do, you're not going to have a good yield, and it's also not going to be a great experience. In winter, some people will take mulch and mulch them. Other people will go and they'll take pine straw, which is perfect because they like it a little acidic. I love that idea rather than regular straw. Regular straw sometimes has weeds in it and such. So again, the wintertime, they kind of take care of themselves. Just mulch them in late fall, and they'll be great. If you've got any questions about raising strawberries, call that hotline at 609-685-1880. We'll be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with the #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit Espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
Well, happy Palm Sunday to everybody. Easter flowers are out. There's a wide range of different flowers that you can get. Most of the ones everybody associates bulbs. And you see the bulbs now, but they plant them in the fall. So everybody who wants bulbs now, you're going to have to buy them in plants, and they're, as opposed to paying, 50 to 75 cents a bulb, you're paying like $10 for a pot of like 6 bulbs. So again, tulips, hyacinths, daffodils, lilies, all can be put out now without any fear of damage from cold weather. A lot of people are planting at the cemetery and using them as grave memorials. That's perfect. That when you have tulips and they start to go yellow, they're not dying. They're just going dormant. I suggest that everyone plant their bulbs in their yard when they're done and that they will come back next year. Hardy flowers like hydrangeas and azaleas, they are all perfect. Hydrangeas, it's going to be a little cold for. They can go out, but they probably would need to get covered if we go below, say, 35 degrees. Azaleas should be fine. You just got to, again, they're forced into bloom when they're not normally in bloom because Easter is April 20th, not 2 or 3 weeks later. But it's pretty close. It's pretty close. That tropical plants, hibiscus, gardenias, gloxinias. Anybody see gloxinias? I can't even find gloxinias. They're like a giant African violet. But again, those all have to stay indoors and inside. It's too cold for them to go out. It's a great time because the flowers are so beautiful, and it's time to bring some inside and to celebrate the season, the Easter season. And again, I wish everybody a happy Easter. We'll be right back in the garden right after this. Coast of Maine's Organic Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the best soil for raised bed gardens, planter boxes, and container gardens. It grows amazing vegetables. It is made with a mixture of manure compost, worm castings, lobster and kelp meal, mycorrhiza, green sand, and biochar. It's ready to use straight out of the bag with no need for additional components or tilling. If you love growing fresh and hearty vegetables, herbs, and flowers, Coast of Maine's Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the perfect choice for you. At Coast of Maine, we believe in growing organically and buying locally. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. Hey, those of you wondering where Julio is and how Julio's doing, our regular listen, I texted Julio last week back and forth. He is loving the married life and retired life, and I think he's working harder around the house than he did when he was working at Bloomers. Anyway, I thank you guys for listening. Again, wish you a happy Easter and happy Resurrection Day, right, Aaron?
Absolutely.
That's right, and that we'll be back next week. This show had a lot of information. Please don't get that itch to plant too early. You're going to regret it. Because, again, there are certain things that can be planted, and the best information is from your local garden center. Go into your local garden center and ask them, what can I plant? And they will advise you what you can do and what you can't. If you're just buying off some rack at a local box store that, you know, they don't have control over that. They just get the stuff when it shows up. So it doesn't mean that it can be planted. So just keep that in mind. Your local garden center is the best place for information for quality plants. So keep that in mind. And when you go to that local garden center, tell them you listen to Bloomers in the Garden, and that we would appreciate that. Thank you, TJ, producer extraordinaire. And join us next week at the same time, and we'll see you in the garden.